Well, Redstone Manor had some very humble beginnings. My first barn was just a bunch of wooden blocks on a shelf. I had the blocks on the top shelf and the pasture on the bottom shelf. And I only had a few briars at the time, so it worked. Eventually, my briars outgrew the blocks, and I started building stalls out of cardboard and popsicle sticks. And I built my own little tack room as well. I painted the cardboard and popsicle stick stalls and gave them latches and hooks for halters. A few of them even had bars made out of metal. Eventually I started adding things like buckets and hay nets, and some bedding was glued into the bottom. One of the stalls still exists in my collection. Twister uses it in the series. My collection grew. I used a Grand Champion's barn for a while as a pony barn. And I also painted one of my Barbie barns. And that one is actually still being used. There are just a few more shots of my stable aisles that didn't actually have floors outside of the stalls. But I started making my own tack and hanging it on the hooks so that all of my horses had their own halters and their own lead ropes. It was all very organized. Very tidy. It's not very organized anymore, but I try. This barn, I believe, was from a dollhouse set. It was actually way too small for briars, but I was running out of stalls because I kept getting more briars. I also only had limited space to have my riders ride their horses. They used my dad's pool table as an arena. Yeah, probably wasn't the greatest idea. I also used, those are cookie sheets, like those metal cookie sheet kind of things you put baked goods out on to let them cool. And I tied them all together with wire, and that's what I made my round pen out of. And you can see that in some of my episodes. Now back in those days, I lived in a totally different part of the country, and I had this really great forest to take my horses out and have them ride in. I have a great forest again, but for a while I didn't. But you can tell in those episodes they go out and they do trail rides out in the woods. And so there's these really nice backdrops, and they had a whole cross-country trail set up, and my sets changed depending on where I'm living, because I did a lot of moving. So this is one of the barns I don't have anymore. It was 2 stalls, and I mostly used it as a Greenbridge barn in season 2. Later on it became a Redstone Manor barn, and don't ask me why, the barns move around. I'm not really sure who made it. It might have been Maxim, but I don't know. This is another barn that I don't have anymore. It was 1 stall. It was usually used as Riker's stall, and it was actually a very nice set. The problem was it didn't hold up very well, and I was worried that it would just fall apart if I tried to move with it. It was made by Dakins, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Yeah, that was the roof of that barn. I didn't get it new. I usually buy my barns on eBay or at garage sales, so I don't really buy them new very often. I don't think I've ever bought a barn new, actually. This was actually my first wooden barn. It was my main Redstone Manor barn for a long, long time until recently when I accidentally left it behind in a move. That was really sad. I have its almost identical twin. This barn actually was made by a different company, but it looks almost exactly like the barn I have now, which is made by Briar. I did add the nameplates and the hooks and everything. But it was a very nice barn, I liked it. I did a lot of work on it to get the hardware into it and stuff. So yeah. After the move, I got the Maxim Groton Sally Fair stable. This is the big barn that I have. It's got 3 buildings. It has 4 stalls, The office has 2 levels. It has 2 lofts, a tack room, an office. I've done a ton of work on this barn. It wasn't painted when I got it, except for I think the roof was green. It didn't have all the fancy doorknobs, and of course it didn't have the climbing roses and stuff. The inside wasn't painted. I added a lot of fancy stuff to it. I added lights. So this is really my favorite barn. I think it looks really nice. And one of the really nice things about it is that all the buildings come apart. Like, they come off of each other, so I can line up the stalls, or I can put them at an angle, however I want to do them, and I can set them up. So it's been really great for that, for flexibility. The other great thing about this barn is all of the pieces come apart really easily. There is no screws, no nails needed once it's all put together. It all comes down, folds down pretty flat. So for moving, it's been really nice. I bought mine on eBay, and it was all broken, and I think it was about $200 or $300. And that's if you can find them. But if you can find them, go for it. If you've got the money. I knew it was going to be something that when I put it back together and fixed it up the way I wanted, it would last me a long time and it would really be worth it. And this is what it looks like before you paint it. In case you were wondering. The reason that I painted it that way was sort of to match this barn. I think this is an off-brand, like Stable Champions kind of barn that I got, I don't even know how many years ago. They're still being sold. It's a classic-sized barn. The stalls are tiny. Even for classics, they're really small. I also use it as a storage barn, like a storage shed, or a run-in for out in a pasture, if you take the front part of it off. The advantage to this barn, it also folds flat. It folds really, really flat. It's very awesome for that. So, Barbie barn being used this year. This is actually the barn that I have now, the Breyer barn, before I painted it. It's been around for a while, but it wasn't painted. So it's been in a lot of episodes, just as the unpainted barn that looked like the other barn that I had. And I think it was the border barn for a long time. So Adian had his horses out in it. And now it's painted, and now it's my main barn because it's the only barn I have out. Oh no, the killer acorns are coming to get me. So I've done a lot of work on it. I've stained the wood. I've painted the bars. I've added custom bridle racks. I've added nameplates, custom door handles. You can't tell from the pictures, but I've added floor mats, tie rings inside the stalls, hay inside of the hay feeders, and of course the tack trunks and the horses. And up on top in the loft area, I still have my loft tack room that I made. My very awesome Western tack room. That is actually just a piece of cardboard that I put a tack room on. Speaking of tack, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my tack shop. My awesome little tack shop set that I built. I have actually a little tutorial about how to make it in my tutorials, my tips and tutorials playlist. Yes. I still have this set somewhere. It's mostly destroyed, but I think I will try to rebuild it someday. It's a very awesome little set. Lots of tiny miniature things. But sadly, many moves have kind of made all the hot glue fall apart, and yeah, it needs to be glued back together. And last but not least, arenas. I haven't had very many, but I also had an outdoor arena that I made right before I moved away, which was kind of sad because I really liked my outdoor arena. It was very cool, and it photographed very well. It was sort of difficult to film out there without getting covered in dirt, but it looked really nice. I built that shed when I was in high school with my own bare hands and a hammer and nails, and so it was my shed, and my dad filled it full of stuff, and so I took all the stuff out and made it into my model horse arena. And I did some filming out there. It was very cool. But then I had to move. So I got my very own indoor arena, which turned out to be a bed from IKEA. Yep, that's a bed. To answer the question that prompted this whole movie, that everybody keeps asking the question, where do you get your barns? This is where I get my barns. eBay. And yard sales. I don't get them new, so if I was to get them new, I'd probably get them on Amazon. But, you know, you have to watch and see if the prices go down, because sometimes they do. Like, I saw a barn on Amazon. It's usually 70 bucks, and then I saw it go down to 50. I almost bought it. I didn't. I'm kind of wishing I did, because then it went back up. Just, you have to watch for deals, because if you just buy spur of the moment, it's going to cost a lot more than if you just wait. So anyways, my camera's running out of batteries and I need to get this film edited. Yeah, whatever that word is. Yeah. Good night, everyone. Hello. I'm Holly the Shoutout Horse, and today's shoutout is for Sophie Taylor! I hope you have a wonderful day. Did I shout loud enough?